This is the oldest picture that I can find that shows me at my biggest, when I weighed the most. And this very blurry looking frame from a video that I have is from when I was about the smallest or when I weighed the least as far as that I can keep track of myself. But really, the whole point of me wanting to make this video was more so I can share the stuff in between and kind of spread the advice that I got, where I got it from, and really have maybe a perspective that people haven't shared before. So all the stuff that came between those two pictures that you saw is really what I want to focus on, and how I went from almost 300, at least from the last time that I weighed myself when I was at my heaviest that I can remember, to my smallest, which was only about 178-ish, I think. It was between 175 and 180 for sure. So stick around and we'll just kind of go through it all little by little, maybe at a brisk pace if I can manage that. And I really want to go through it from start to finish. What made me want to start losing the weight, the mental effects of losing the weight, and the mental things that came before losing the weight, all that kind of mental health stuff, of course. I also kind of want to talk about the medical stuff because I feel like I have a different side to that than maybe most people would hear on the internet, because that was, I wouldn't say the catalyst, because I was, already trying before, but the medical stuff definitely helped. And so I'll get into that too. And of course, I'll go through, the advice that I got, who I watched on the internet, because of course everybody learns through the internet nowadays, and the good stuff that helped me, the bad stuff that helped me, and kind of it is different for everyone, but maybe some of this will help one of you if you find this video and you watch it. So stick around, remember to like, subscribe, all those things, and I'll just get right into it. The beginning, and what made me want to start losing weight. So to start, I'd really have to go back to that first picture. So I feel like this is a very similar thing with low self-esteem people, but this is me through certain teenage years of my life and really into early adulthood, when I weighed so much and I didn't really know how much I weighed. But I would avoid mirrors, pictures. I would avoid having to see myself, because it was almost like I was trying to ignore how I looked. But there's one picture that you can't avoid, and that's when you have to go get a new license. And I tell you, when I got that picture back, my mind went crazy. Immediately, like walking to the car from the DMV, I was staring at the picture. I was thinking about, how did I even get to this point? I didn't even have a number at that point because I didn't have a scale. I haven't been weighed. I always just guessed when I was told, how much do you weigh or whatever. I just threw out a number. And, unless you're at a doctor, usually they just let you throw out a number and it's fine. So I did what anybody would do in this situation. I went and I sat in the car and I took it to the extreme. I stopped eating, like, at all. Basically, the rest of that day, I didn't eat. The rest of next day, I didn't eat. Until, of course, I reached that second or third day where I was so hungry that I just binged out and ate whatever I had that was in my house at the time. So I am going to kind of skip around now a little bit, because I want to take you back before, when I was skinnier, but not particularly for healthy reasons. So when I was a freshman in high school, I really didn't weigh much. I don't remember particularly how much I did weigh or what I looked like, but I definitely didn't have as much muscle back then, but I also didn't have that much fat either. I was just normal, average human me. But the thing is that my mental health was really bad at that time. Not the worst it's ever been, but definitely not good. So I guess if this is necessary, trigger warning for eating disorders or mental health stuff, and, suicidal thoughts, whatever, all that. So short little background, part of my freshman year of high school, me and my dad lived with my aunt in her basement. Just for some context of maybe understanding that while school wasn't great, also home probably didn't feel great either, or where we would go to call home. So every day from school, I would come home, I'd head down to my room in the basement, and I would, have the thoughts, and I would listen to music because I'm into music. I create music. That's been a thing forever. And whenever certain feelings got so intense or certain thoughts got so intense, I would purge. Now, I don't think it was like such a constant thing that I probably have damage from it. I don't know. I've never been checked for it or anything. But, it was definitely a problem. It wasn't healthy, it wasn't good. That much is obvious. And so I think that, going from the DMV picture to coming home and having this kind of whiplash of mental health, maybe looking at my face, maybe not being happy with whatever it was, that binging just kind of sent me back to those days of maybe purging after or whatever. And I started kind of having that same routine, not necessarily purging as much, but definitely binging a lot more than I used to. If I ever did it all, I couldn't tell you, but that's, memory serves that, occasionally I would eat a ton, and I would definitely purge more than I binge. So all that really is just to have a background on knowing why I reacted how I did to that DMV picture. I didn't really start from a healthy place. I never was really in a healthy place with weight. I just, throughout a majority of my life, I was just average. I would eat whatever and have however much activity that I would have throughout the day. And usually that just worked. When you're a teenager or when you're a kid, usually that's just enough to keep you average, at least for, I would assume most people. I can't remember a specific moment or day or thing that made me stop really and made me think that there was a better way to do this. But I can tell you that it started out with two things, and that's where we kind of diverge our paths here. And we have information on YouTube that helped and also didn't help. And then going to a doctor and getting blood tests and stuff done for the first time in years and years, since it was my choice, at least since, 15 years old. So these two things is really where, they start to converge and they make a very positive effect on the weight and the things coming forward. So let's start with the YouTube stuff. So you're a male in your 20s and you want to lose weight, and what's the first thing you do? You Google. Where does Google send you? YouTube. So, of course I saw the normal, carb videos, cut out your carbs and the super ripped guys all over your search engine, and they're just like thumbnail, ripped guy, whatever. Of course I saw all that. So I can't say what made me click on this person's channel or why it was this person whose information I started to listen to first regarding nutrition and stuff, but it was Greg Doucette. And really, I would just go through the recommended, like one Greg Doucette video, counting calories, whatever, to the next one about, muscle mass, body types aren't real, whatever. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole. And I will say that although the information I got there didn't push me to my lowest weight, it definitely helped, and it was a good starting place, because while that helped with the knowledge and telling me what I needed to do, it didn't help push me to do it. It didn't motivate me. It didn't make me feel like I could do it. It was just like sucking in information, and it would sit in my brain and I wouldn't do anything with it. And I'm not trying to say that's, a diss on his methods or whatever, because this was years ago anyway, but it was definitely something that I needed to do, but I also kind of didn't know how to do it. I didn't know where to start. It wasn't in me to do it yet. Not sure you'll be able to tell if it was a day change because I put on the same clothes for continuity, but different day, back to the point. And the second person that YouTube recommended to me that I started to watch and follow and became more influential kind of, and me actually getting up and putting the stuff I was learning into action was Will Tennyson. Now, I named these two people specifically because without them, I probably never would have reached the weight that I reached. I would have never got the goals that I had. I just wouldn't be where I was or where I am now without finding these two people who had decent information conveyed in different ways, and entertainment in their own different ways. And so this is more just an outreach to say that there are good people out there giving good information. You just have to find them, and don't believe the first thing you see. So just keep that thought. So I had some information, I had some motivation, and the thing that came next was actually the most unexpected thing, and that was the medical stuff. So let's say that you've started a certain routine, or you've started a diet or something, and you've been on it realistically and honestly with yourself, you've been on it, been strict with it for a couple weeks, you don't see any change or something, then try to push back the embarrassment if you have the embarrassment like I had of seeing a doctor, and go see a doctor, get some blood tests done, because I tell you that this was something I never even thought was possible for me. So, I can't remember what brought up having to go to the doctor, for what reason I got my blood tested or whatever. It was just a whole thing. So, what I didn't expect to hear back, I'd never even really considered it to be an option, was hypothyroidism. So I would show you, I take this little pill every day, I'd show you, but it has addresses and shit on it. But now I just wake up, I take a pill every day, I wait an hour before I eat or drink anything with caffeine or whatever, and the difference, especially that first year, combined with the diet, combined with the fitness, these three things together made my progress just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had to ask myself if I took some steroids or some shit, Jokes aside, it was really crazy to me. Not only the difference that I started to see on a scale, but the difference that I started to feel physically and mentally losing the weight. And even the first, couple weeks of taking my thyroid medication, I'm used to it now, but I can remember how that felt, feeling more, what I thought normal should be. I've kind of given an idea of the background, so you don't think that I'm going to start showing the progress in the videos and what I was doing as just, it came super easy, or it was all me. Like, I had tons and tons of hours of just videos watched on this stuff, on diet, on fitness, on exercises, weightlifting, all that. And then not only did I have the information help, but I also had,
literal medical help,
which I can't ignore if I'm going to be discussing publicly about my weight loss and the muscle gain and all that. Like, I would not have reached that low of a weight without being on levothyroxine, which is the medication I take. And then there's the mental stuff too, and the mental stuff will connect a lot more into what I expect will be kind of the last part. I'm ordering this correctly, and that's the actual exercises / fitness itself. Oh yeah, and there is also the whole, as you'll see in the videos, there's like the whole body hair thing, but that doesn't need a whole section. Just, understand that I have body hair, and occasionally, it's shaved and sometimes it's not, and that changes how it looks. So just keep that in mind also. So when I started and I was getting all my fitness and diet advice, I had already started with the mindset that I wanted to work out at home, and I didn't want to set a particular look goal. I have kids, as some of the pictures I have will show, and going to the gym was an added stress in my mind. If I had to go to a gym to work out, then most of the time I probably would find an excuse not to. Coming in, already having been introspective in that way and knowing the way my mind would work. So I knew I had to find a routine that worked with that I couldn't find an excuse to not do. I had never lifted a weight before in my life. I went to Walmart, bought some cheapish dumbbells and a very cheap bar and weights, and started looking on videos and studying form, learning certain exercises, what worked, what muscles, all that information. And I also bought a weighted vest to do a lot of body weight stuff, like, lunges, push-ups, all that, because I knew that if I wouldn't go to a gym, then sometimes I just needed to find a home workout that would work with me. I don't think that I had a goal, really. It was just to be healthier, lose weight, and see what progress would happen. But my goal, if I had one, was definitely not to get bigger or more muscular. It was just be as much as I could. Try to be realistic while still pushing goals. Also, I had a fairly frequent history with back pain. So when I was really trying to study form, I just wanted to avoid injury as much as possible. I didn't. I still got injured sometimes with certain things, mistakes that I made that I could correct, but it's not entirely important to all this information. When I started, my mindset really was the same as when I was, I don't know if you want to call it fat or bigger or whatever, but I didn't take pictures or videos because I didn't want to see it. Also, in my mind and the way I was thinking at the time, I didn't want to look at that stuff or have it in case I failed or I just stopped or it didn't work out, whatever it was. Eventually, I did start, and in the videos, you're gonna have the awkward flexing and certain angles that don't make sense or whatever. But it was me. It was just me doing it on my own, and it was part of my process. I learned as I went, and I think it improved later on. Getting into just a little bit more background on me, I have never really been one to start out good at anything, as far as I can remember. So going into this, I had to keep that in mind, and I couldn't let failure or mistakes or me trying to learn a new thing, I couldn't let those things stop me or make me want to quit. So I don't know the real name for every exercise I chose to do, and I didn't video everything I did or a lot of the exercise sessions. I really was more doing it before a workout or after a workout or when I felt certain progress or just to share something. I did it randomly, but I think that you can get kind of a picture of where I started and where it ended. So I believe that when I did start videoing myself and taking photos and such, I was somewhere between 260 and 240. I definitely know that I started keeping consistent weekly track when I hit around 230 because I knew that that was such good progress already, in terms of where I was and where I'd be, that it didn't bother me as much to start videoing and stuff because I felt like if I had already made this kind of progress, how much further could it go? And that was the time when I really started to consistently take videos and photos. So getting specifically into kind of how I formulated the exercises I chose to do, it was a lot of supersets. And really, I only did supersets because it felt like I was pushing myself more. It was a me thing. I was pushing myself more, I was improving faster, and I was saving time. Time is a really important thing to me. For example, I would do, I'd put on the weighted vest and I'd do push-ups to failure, straight into squats to failure. I would do a bicep curl variation, probably 8 to 15. Eventually it became, 10 to 20 or whatever, but I started about 8 to 12, straight into a tricep exercise or a back exercise like a row. I was doing things in that way to really save me time and make me feel like I was improving faster. Also, in this, I don't know if I have a video of it, but if I do, I'll show it here. For fun, I started to do some other things that weren't necessarily weight related to test myself. So one that I started to do a lot was I have this little area in my apartment where I can kind of do a handstand. And so when I started, I couldn't really push myself up. I couldn't hold myself up. And eventually it became to where I could hold myself up maybe 15 seconds or so. So it's not even, it was just testing how I felt. And it was funny that using that as a measure of how much I was improving. I don't know what I was doing sometimes. I was just doing things. Now, as for cardio, it was mainly when I didn't have my kids. I didn't do much running. I'd learned early on that I just like to walk. So a lot of my cardio and physical activity in that way was a long walk or jogging for 20-ish to 30 minutes. I would swim. I would swim if I could. If I had a pool, I would swim every day. So lots of walks on the weekends. No specific distance I was aiming for, but more going down similar or the same route every day. Occasionally on those routes, I would maybe take a different turn that would make it go longer or shorter or whatever, but I really did follow the same kind of path. It was really just, get out there, do something. It would take about an hour or so. Just get out, really. Move your body. Now, occasionally, I would take things to the extreme for no good reason. Now, this part I don't recommend, but I do just kind of want to share this story. The biggest one of these times where I went on a walk that really I shouldn't have, where I took it to the extreme, was about a 14-mile walk. I was picked up and taken to my father's house to mow his yard, and after I was done, he basically told me he would drive me home, but that was after he was done with what he was doing. He was playing Dungeons and Dragons, I believe, so it would be a few hours, and I just didn't want to wait that long. I easily could have, I just didn't want to. So instead, I decided to walk from his house back to my apartment. It was about a 4-hour walk with a 30-minute break at a gas station in between. I don't recommend that, but I just thought I would share that, the way that things worked for me was varying. I would take things extreme, but I would never let those extreme things make me stop. You know, if I pushed things to the extreme, that was my fault. And maybe I needed a rest day after because, you know, rest is good for you, but I would never let that rest day turn into a rest week or let rest week turn into stopping. I had to keep consistent or I knew that I wouldn't do it at all. Now, getting more into a diet, as you kind of see these videos and you kind of see maybe some progress being made, it was very simple, kind of boring, but I do think it's funny that some people just don't take this into account. So my diet wasn't super rigid. I still, you know, ate carbs. I still ate fat. I still ate a lot of things, a lot of varying foods. And I didn't cut anything out because somebody told me that it would be better for me or whatever. No keto, none of that. So for example, something I did was just replacing regular spaghetti for a chickpea spaghetti or a lentil spaghetti. I like the red lentils and I like chickpea spaghetti. I still eat that to this day. I would put less sauce on it and I wouldn't smother it in cheese like I used to. Another thing I switched that I think, you know, is an obvious thing is egg whites for regular eggs. I would sometimes just take a regular egg or two and just mix it in with the egg whites if I didn't feel like just having plain egg whites with seasoning. And I guess since I'm thinking about it now, you don't have to be scared of seasoning. I seasoned everything. My eggs. I even seasoned my spaghetti. I seasoned every meat I would have. I did a ton. Don't be scared of the seasoning. So anyway, chicken, turkey, and, you know, pork stuff like a sausage or whatever, I loved it and I still ate it. I did cut out a lot more beef just because, you know, the calorie difference. I did pay attention to calories for sure, but I never was writing it down. I just kept a mental note. I would occasionally round up, you know, if it was like, if something was 180 calories, I would just say this is 200 calories. Kept it easier track. And I wasn't being super specific, which is good and bad. You know, find something that works for you. But for me, that worked. Maybe I didn't know the specific calorie intake I should have for the day or whatever, but it was working for me and it still kind of works. It maintains my body I have now. So the gist of the diet is really, I didn't get rid of anything I love. I just ate less or I made a healthier substitute. And I think a lot more people kind of need that. Because I really wish and hope that more people would share this kind of approach when it comes to fitness and diet. Start slow if you need to. Don't make life terrible. Go into it understanding that whatever changes you make should be something you are okay with doing for as long as you can do it. You know, maybe one day your body can't lift as much weight because you're 50 years old or whatever, but do as much as you can for as long as you can. I still eat a lot of the healthier changes I make. I don't have a desire to go back and smother my pasta with cheese or anything. I don't work out as intensely and as strictly as I used to, but I still do work out. I still lift because I know and I knew when I started that whatever thing I made, whatever routine I wanted to have, I couldn't reverse or I wouldn't want to reverse any of the major progress I had made. Another time skip later. Let me just end this ranty video saying this. Find your approach. Be honest with yourself. And remember that just because you maybe fall back a few pounds or a little bit of progress that you've made doesn't mean that you give up entirely. If you get anything from this video, if you've made it this far, I hope that it is at least helping you look at the idea of losing weight or gaining more muscle or whatever your goal is. I hope this video makes you look at it in a different way, and I hope that that different way helps you achieve those goals. So I'll end this video and I will show a couple of the last videos that I took of where my physique was at my lowest weight, which I think, as I said at the beginning, was about 175 to 180. And I don't look like that anymore. Right now I weigh about 187. So, you know, add 10 pounds to this physique, that's what I look like now. And that was my progress, that's my journey, and I'm happy, if you want to call it a journey, I'm happy with where I'm at now. Happy is probably an overstatement. I am okay with where I'm at now. And I hope that somebody who finds this video and maybe makes it through all this that you can also be okay with where you are at or where you want to be. So I appreciate it, and if you watch this video, I hope it helped you out. No big outro, no big, climactic finish, because really, there is no finish. I still have to eat healthier. I still can't go back to, eating whole pots of mac and cheese and throwing in some cheddar jalapeno sausages or whatever I want to eat. Not how life works. It never stops. And that's a daunting thing to think about, but it's also easier to get through if you understand that. So hopefully I see you next time. Hopefully this video helped, and bye.